right thing.
Give us a call, 219-885-1371. That number again, 219-885-1371 from the greatest city in all the world, Gary, Indiana. And speaking of battles, Ref, we got a battle at the border.
Oh, my.
Yes, our Vice President Kamala Harris made news this week because she went down to Guatemala, should I say, and she had a message.
She had a message.
She had a message.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come.
What? No, she didn't.
Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur.
Really?
But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration.
Oh.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back.
Yes.
You return back?
So after 4 years of vilifying Donald Trump for being racist, for saying that illegal immigration hurts the country and telling people to to go back, all of a sudden, Kamala Harris, Miss Woke Queen herself, is telling people the same thing. Now, for contrast, this is what she had to say when she was running for president. Now, listen to this.
Senator Harris, last month, more than 130,000 migrants were apprehended at the southern border. Many of them are being detained, including small children, in private detention centers in Florida and throughout our country. Most of the candidates on this stage say the conditions at these facilities are abhorrent. On January 20th, 2021, if you are president, what specifically would you do with the thousands of people who try to reach the United States every day and want a better life through asylum?
Immediately on January 20th of 2021, I will, first of all, we cannot forget our DACA recipients, and so I'm going to start there. I will immediately, by executive action, reinstate DACA status and DACA protection to those young people. I will further extend protection for deferral of deportation for their parents and for veterans, who we have so many who are undocumented and have served our country and fought for our democracy. I will also immediately put in place a meaningful process for reviewing the cases for asylum. I will release children from cages. I will get rid of the private detention centers. And I will ensure that this microphone that the President of the United States holds in her hand is used in a way that is about reflecting the values of our country, and not about locking children up, separating them from their parents. And I have to just say that we have to think about this issue in terms of real people. A mother who pays a coyote to transport her child through their country of origin, through the entire country of Mexico, facing unknown peril, to come here. Why would that mother do that? I will tell you. Because she has decided for that child to remain where they are is worse. But what does Donald Trump do? He says, go back to where you came from. That is not reflective of our America and our values, and it's got to end.
So we go from, hey, don't tell people to go back, to don't come. Don't come, please.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube.
Sorry, Lester Holt, but yes, to don't come. Look, at some point, Ref, we're going to have to realize, and we're just going to have to acknowledge, mass illegal immigration does not help the working class.
There you go.
I mean, we talked about this on the show before. It just doesn't. And again, once again, this is the corporate mainstream media and just our society of polarized people, period. For many years in this country, the left fought illegal immigration. People like Cesar Chavez, this is what he had to say about it. I'll show you what he had to say about it.
The Mexican government to bring the Bracero program again. It's a vicious attack on the local worker, and it's just one of those things that agribusiness thinks they can get away with it. And our job is to inform the whole country what's happening together with a boycott and solve it that way. And so the workers themselves, even though a lot of them are Mexican descendancy themselves, are very uptight and very, very worried and very mad about the illegals coming to break their strikes. And it takes away their jobs, their livelihood, and so forth.
Does that put you in an uncomfortable position to be against the illegal immigrants because they are from Mexico? In other words, part of your program has been an appeal to equal treatment of people of Mexican origin. Right?
Oh yeah, sure, but we're speaking of the legal ones. You know, we don't want Mexico to export its poverty to us, and then we pay.
Really?
It's not the agriculture, it's not society in general. It's a farm worker again paying for those sins. You know, and Mexico should take the initiative and stop exporting the poverty to us. They should do something about the rural economy over there, and then see it's a way of breaking the strike. It's a way of demoralizing the farm workers. And for instance, the workers are going to ask for stamps, for food stamps. They're lining up the offices for welfare, and they're being told, we can't give you a job because there are plenty of jobs. And the workers say, well, there aren't any jobs. We just came from the fields. They won't hire us, or they just laid us off because either because we're strikers, or because we're members of the union, or because the braceros, the illegals will do the job for half the money we're getting.
There you go. There you go. There you go. The late great Cesar Chavez, one of my heroes. God bless labor. The founder of United Farm Workers.
Yeah.
You know, and not just him. Ralph Abernathy, who marched with MLK, marched with Cesar Chavez on the border to prevent illegal immigration. Coretta Scott King, the late great Coretta Scott King. She wrote Orrin Hatch and the Republicans of all people in the early 90s begging them to do something about illegal immigration because it was hurting black people, particularly young black men's ability to get jobs, labor jobs. A. Philip Randolph, a socialist, the greatest left-wing labor leader that the black community has ever had because of started the sleeping car porters union over there in Chicago. He said we shouldn't be taking it to these people until black people, African Americans, are fully enfranchised. That's what the left was doing for the entirety of the 20th century, folks. Here we go once again. So now you hear what AOC is saying, and you're hearing what they've tried to force Bernie Sanders. For many years, Bernie Sanders spoke out just like what Cesar Chavez was saying there against illegal immigration and the effect it was going to have on poor people, and particularly black people. But when the woke queens in the Democratic Party kind of, when he was trying to run for president, pushed him into saying, oh, well, legal immigration, we need to have, look, you will never be able to get around the fact that it doesn't benefit the working class. It just doesn't benefit the working class to have millions of low-wage, low-skilled individuals flooding into the country. Cesar Chavez saw it. Ralph Abernathy saw it. Coretta Scott King. Booker T. Washington, just show you how long this issue has been prominent. The most preeminent civil rights leader in 1990 was unconcerned about accusations of nativism when he pleaded with Southern business leaders to look for workers among the 8 millions of Negroes whose habits rather than the incoming of those foreign birth and strange tongue and habits. Okay? Frederick Douglass, you go back even before that. It has never benefited the working class, the poor, anybody who's not a wealthy landowner or a wealthy corporation that can use illegal immigrant labor to suppress wages of working class people. Rev, what say you?
You're right. I mean, it's not that it's a zero-sum game, although, sometimes it is like that. I mean, if there's only so many businesses that are, in an area, and you got more people available who can do the work, then it does drive, the price of labor down. When it's harder to find workers, labor, they're willing to pay more. I mean, that's no different from, like gas and everything else. Supply and demand works on all those sides. And to pretend that it doesn't, you can wish it, but wishing don't make it so.
Right. I absolutely agree. And look, I want to say too, this isn't to scapegoat or to make those to vilify people coming from Guatemala, El Salvador. Look, folks, a lot of the problems that those people, a large percentage of the problems that those people have, the United States government, thanks to the Monroe Doctrine, helped cause it. Okay, in places like Guatemala, we overthrew their democratically elected leader Jacobo Arbenz in the early 50s because the United Fruit Company wanted cheap labor.
Oh yeah, the banana plant. Yeah, I
Yes,
heard of it. I remember reading
yes,
about that.
yes, and replaced him with one of our uh, our dictators that we trained at the School of Americas, Efren Rios Montt, people like that. We at the School of Americas, which is called WINSEC now. They changed the name because it became so notorious. Where the U.S. was down there in South America training all these dictators and war criminals in those countries and turning them loose to rule over and create these type of horrific conditions for these people. So besides him, Efren Rios Montt, we trained Manuel Noriega at the School of the Americas. Yeah, him, Suarez from Bolivia, who Hugo Banjo Suarez from Bolivia, who murdered, deported, tortured thousands of people, and dictator from Argentina, Galatieri, all of them. So I have a lot of empathy for those people. God bless them. The best thing we can do is stop doing stuff like that to those people. Stop training dictators to lord over them so that our companies, the fruit companies and other corporations can have cheap labor and steal all those people's resources. You know, that's the best thing we can do for them. Not bring them here and undermine the black kids in Gary who are struggling to get into the labor force. And it's hard enough to be 19, 20 years old, just got out of high school a few years ago, or some young men have had maybe a criminal record or a misstep or two, and now they've got to get into a labor force where they're competing with the labor from somebody from Mexico or Guatemala. And again, this isn't to scapegoat those people. I'm just saying black African Americans built this country. 400 years we've been here. Kids from Gary, from Detroit, from Flint, Michigan shouldn't have to compete. I'm sorry. I that's the way I see it. They shouldn't have to compete with somebody, and this idea that, well, if you're so low skilled that you illegal immigrant can do your job, then there's something wrong with you. That's not how it works, folks. Those people's parents, their grandparents, their great grandparents built this country. Their blood, sweat, and tears is literally in this country. Everything you do, Rev, now you're doing for your children.
You know, and another thing about that is, let's be honest, the kind of jobs that were common at one point are not common anymore. There are things that you used to could do, you could learn, as it were, OJT. But automation has taken up so much stuff. It's not that, kids graduated from high school, well, how dare you be so low skill? It's that high school is only designed to do so much.
Yes, that's a big problem as well.
High school education does not give you what high school education gave you 30, 40 years ago. And that's not saying anything against teachers or anything. It's simply saying that the labor market requires skill sets today beyond being able to sit yourself on an assembly line and do this one thing for 8 hours.
Right.
Gosh, I know at my age right now, if I were to try to get a job, if let's say for some reason, they decided the Missouri Senate decided they didn't want to do missions in national missions anymore, and I had to go find a job. Most of the stuff that I learned how to do, even as an adult, no longer exists.
Right.
If I were to try to go back in the casino industry, I couldn't go back into doing what I did when I was there. They don't do that anymore. They don't do coins anymore. There's no coins to wrap anymore.
Right.
So, it's you do the best you can. You take as much of the education as you can. You try to find something that you like to do and get some more skills in that area. But, the reality is we have technology that has made it such that it's hard to find work for everybody that you can pay enough so that everybody can live the kind of life that, for example, my parents were able to live here in Gary. Even if you didn't work at U.S. Steel, the economy based on U.S. Steel was such that everything else. It's just like living in Las Vegas back in the 70s, 80s. You didn't have to work in gaming to benefit from the fact that gaming brought forth a pretty good standard of living in Las Vegas because it affected everything else.
Right. That's true. And it's crazy. I know a lot of men like my father, my uncles. I had an uncle worked in a steel mill for 50 years, who started working there, I think, from the age of 15 or 16 or something back in like the 40s or 50s and worked into the 90s or something. Those types of things are not available. And so we shouldn't try to undercut the labor force that we do have and with the few jobs we do have with mass low-wage, low-skilled immigration. Barack Obama, I tell people all the time, one of the few things he did that I agreed with was he deported 3 million people. He deported more people than anybody ever, more than every president in the 20th century combined, which is why I always thought it was so disingenuous when the corporate mainstream liberal media made it out to be that Trump was the worst person ever for saying that we're going to have to deport some of these people. Okay, now I agree if I'm not saying you have to be heartless about it. We shouldn't be torturing people in cages and having kids, being molested and all the horrific things I'm hearing about those places. We should definitely not have that going on. That shouldn't be going on. But they can't all stay here, folks. And even the liberals, the bleeding heart liberals who did all that, as you heard Kamala Harris talking about how we're a country of immigrants and how her parents were immigrants. Even she's saying now, don't come. Don't come. We ain't got no place for you. Don't come. You're going to end up in cages. They did all this about kids in cages when Trump was in office. Now, the kids still in cages. They're just calling them the youth detention centers or something. All right, folks, we have to take our second break. Please give us a call, 219-885-1371. When we get back, we all just paid our taxes, but I can think of some people who didn't. We'll be right back after this on WLTH 1370 AM with Scott and the Rev. You are listening to Scott and the Rev on WLTH 1370 AM. Give us a call, 219-885-1370.